click on the pandemic puppies. Yep. If you did not yet, click on that link I put in the chat. Go ahead and click on that so you know where to find today's resources. You're going to go under Lead Teacher Resources and choose the Lead Teacher Collaborative. And then when you scroll down, just find today's date, and everything you need for today is there. And I will just go quickly through our introductions for you while you navigate to that set of resources. So welcome back. We have, oh, yep, I will, Miranda. Thank you for asking. There you go. Welcome back to the Lead Teacher Collaborative. This is the fourth of many sessions. We had a session in November and then a couple of small group sessions based on topics. And we're coming back together as a whole group to do some community thinking about our leadership roles. And then we will split back out into new small groups, new topics for the rest of the spring season, which it finally feels like spring. It was winter like 2 days ago. It's official spring. Maybe that's another reason we have lots of puppies this morning or this afternoon. I know by now you're very familiar with Zoom. We will always kind of give you this quick orientation, but the important part is within the collaborative, we really do want you to unmute, share, jump into the chat and share. We want a lot of back and forth. We do talk a lot, but we don't want to spend most of our time talking. We want you to be actively learning and engaging. And we love to adjust on the fly to make sure that the conversation's most useful to you. Today, we're going to start out with some quick introductions, but really we're going to focus on your role as a teacher leader. And we're going to do that in a couple of contexts. We're going to start out thinking about your role on your rural life team. And I'll talk with you a little bit about what we mean when we say like your rural life team. And then we're going to think about you as a teacher leader in your school. And then in the wrap up and next steps, we're going to give you an opportunity to choose your next 2-session affinity group. And so if you click on that link, I did drop it in the chat for you. That is where your resources are for today. And just a quick reminder, by now we're all very familiar with this graphic, that the focus of our time together and all of your time at school with the coaches and the rest of your school for rural life is kind of finding the intersection of personalized literacy instruction to bring the best possible learning experience we can design for all of our students, and hopefully a great experience from the teacher standpoint too. So finding that sweet spot of efficiency and effectiveness by bringing these two pieces together. Nancy and I don't often get a chance to jump in here with you, and we do want to get to know you. So if you would jump into the chat, tell us your name and your school and your role. We all want to get familiar with each other. Just take a minute, find that chat button and jump in. Say hello to everybody. Oh, and I see Lori. I'm waving. I know you're somewhere else on your own screen, but hi. Haven't seen you in a long time. Welcome. And while you all drop your names in the chat, I am Teresa Gibson. Welcome this afternoon. And we have facilitating today Nancy Manga, my friend and colleague, and Bethany Fillers. And so the three of us will be taking you through today with support from all of the amazing Niswonger coaches. We do have John with us, and I think I saw Brittany jump in. Yes, oh, I see her, okay. Today, Dr. Kitzmiller is not on right now, but he may pop in. And then we do have all of our coaches with us today. And so these should be some very familiar faces. And so we won't spend a long time reintroducing everybody, but we do have Candace, Tracy, and Brooke, Catherine and Sarah, and Linda and Brandy with us. And then we have you all. And together, all of those people I just went through make up what we are calling the Lead Teacher Collaborative. And so for this year, we're going to go through with these learning objectives. We really want to bring the community together, share ideas, think about strategies together, and build our rural life work out together. We will do this for this spring through the next couple of sessions, March and April. And then across the next couple of years, we will offer more professional learning, probably in very different chunks that builds upon itself as we go across the grant. And with that, welcome to all. I see lots of folks saying hello in the chat. So hopefully we're going to really encourage the use of the chat today and your microphone. So get on and jump in. If any of you are sitting outside, we've already said if you weren't on it at the beginning, we totally understand. You're thinking like it is 70 degrees, right? Not sure why I'm not outside. We're going to jump in this morning thinking our starting point for today, thinking about our roles within the Rural Life Grant, is thinking about this team that we work with in rural life. And so when we say your rural life team, what we mean by that is these three major roles. So you as the lead teacher, your supporting Niswonger coach, and your school leader. So it's kind of like your mini team. And we know you have other layers of teams, like the whole lead teacher collaborative is part of your support system. The whole Niswonger Foundation is part of the support system. But when I'm going through this initial piece of the day, when I'm talking about the rural life team, I'm talking about these three roles. And so what we're going to do today is think about like, wait a minute, there are a lot of people doing a lot of different things in this grant. And at this point, like there's COVID, there's a lot of stuff going on, and you're probably just kind of sitting there going, I am a little bit like, can we pause and think about how are all of these pieces coming together? And so to get us started today, I'm going to spend a little bit of time kind of talking with you about what are the other pieces, and specifically, what has your principal been working on with us? So hopefully you do know that they've been working through some sessions with us. And we know that in the day-to-day of a school, things go by very quickly, and it can be hard to pause and kind of find the time to say, I've been doing this, what have you been doing? And so we just want to spend a little bit of time with a high-level overview. With the school leaders, we have started to work through this learning arc with the following topics. And a lot of what we're working through with them is managing a major 2-year grant size change, where they're trying to make a shift across a school, and what does that entail? And so a lot of the focus has been on thinking about how do you manage this change across time in a way that's supportive of your school and taking advantage of all of the people that are part of this grant. These sessions, we've been doing them in chunks, trying to be very respectful of, time on Zoom can be really exhausting, especially consecutive time. And so we've been doing these in 2-hour chunks. And the focus of these chunks are really to get to a solid plan that is realistic based on the real year that you're facing in your schools. And so trying to build to get to that point with them. The whole frame that we're hanging our hat on for managing this change is the Nosters model. And one of the things, if you've not seen this before, I'm just going to take a couple minutes to think about it with you. One of the things when you're trying to manage complex change, and so anything that you're trying to change in a school is complex change. And you can think about this from your lead teacher standpoint from school-wide, but you can also just think about it in your classroom, right? The top line of this is all of the pieces that you need to have in place to have a successful change occur. And the way that the graphic works is that it kind of helps you to think about when there's a piece of this missing, what are the results you're going to get? And so if you think of this just from your classroom level, if you're asking your kids, your students to do something that they don't have the skills for, you're going to see a whole lot of anxiety, right? And if they don't have an incentive to do what you're asking them, then you're going to see a lot of resistance, right? And so what we love about this tool is it gives us the really big buckets that help us think about managing change, and it gives us an actionable way to start putting the pieces together. So before we move off of this, this is something your principal is going to be very familiar with, and it is a useful tool. And I want to just take a minute for you to think about a change initiative that's come into your school in your career. And so like, if you've been in a school even only half a year, you've seen many change initiatives already, probably, right? Think about one that you think wasn't great, wasn't very successful. Maybe it had a lot of false starts. Think about some change you've been a part of in your school. Can you think about that change and relate it to the Noster's model? What did you think was missing? Or was nothing missing? Was it successful? And then if it was successful, can you identify what the pieces were? Nancy, I see you're talking about that. That immediately brings COVID to mind. And are you in a place you can jump on the mic? I'd love to hear more about that. Because I agree.
Yeah, I am. I just, I feel like not necessarily, missing things on purpose. I'm not trying to place blame on anything, but I think there are so many unexpected variables this year. I think that has made things really difficult. And I think we've had lots of false starts, and I think there's been lots of frustration and lots of anxiety and confusion. So that's the first thing that came to mind when I heard you talking. It's like, oh my gosh, it's COVID. I mean, we don't know what we're doing. We're just doing the best we can.
Yeah. I think that especially, Nancy, I would agree. And I would say, especially like last March when we all went home and there was no vision. Everybody was like, what does this mean? Like there was so much confusion, right? And the false starts, it's almost like there is an action plan of sorts, but it keeps changing so much that we can't move forward, right? Because the vision's changing, the target's changing, the resources.
And it could be day to day. It could be morning to afternoon. I mean, it can change that quickly.
Yes. And yes, and you're watching, like, when's the next announcement going to be? Right? Because I think one of the biggest pieces that COVID has brought to the front is that when there's not a clear vision of what we're going to do, there's just a lot of confusion.
Yeah. And again, not placing blame or, being negative. I just feel like when I look at those purple things, confusion, anxiety, resistance, frustration, I mean, I thought, oh, that's COVID, all that.
Excellent. And thank you for sharing. I know the model speaks to us, and we love to use it with leaders. I actually tend to have a printout of it hanging on a wall somewhere. We know people who actually use this kind of in backwards design, where if they're hitting a lot of resistance, they think, what have I not done? Oh, there's not a motivator for what I'm asking. And so, but I think especially with COVID, we think about the vision that's missing, and we've spent a lot of time providing some learning and resources around this vision with the principals. And these are pieces you're going to be familiar with. And if we haven't done these with you yet, we will be working on these through the professional learning with you. But the whole basis for the grant, and we have introduced these with you all, are these 4 pillars of personalized learning. And so we've taken them through these visioning exercises. Well, if you're working towards this, what does that look like? And they're doing activities around what does learning science tell us that as we're shifting to personalization is going to keep it high quality. So it's not just going to be willy-nilly kids choosing whatever they want and are interested in, but we have real learning science informing our designs. And we've also been talking to them about student agency and how do you support student voice and choice and make it robust so that it's supporting learning by allowing voice and choice and empowering them with voice and choice. And so developing out that vision, thinking about what does high quality instruction look like, what can we support, as the first major step for managing the complex change. Before we get to the planning process, what are we trying to accomplish? And then we've been working in chunks on building this action plan. And especially in the last couple of sessions, we've focused on when you have a 2-year process, and this is like 2.5, 3 years because of COVID process, you do have to have milestone progress indicators. You have to be working towards something, but you're also going to have to adjust your action plan based on what's happening in your schools. And you can't think of a better example year than this year to say reality causes us to pause and say what's really happening and what supports do I really need to be still working towards this goal, but supporting my school in the way it needs support right now. And so we have been working through, I'm going to quickly show you the example from when we were working with the school leaders. If the Rural Life Plan says by May 2022, we're going to be seeing every student engaging with both grade level appropriate text, but also text of their choice and writing that's personally meaningful, then if that's our big goal, we want to keep our standards high. We do want education to be effective and high quality, even during COVID. But as we start to backward map, how are we going to get there? How are we going to know we're even headed towards this big, lofty goal? Well, if that's what we want to be seeing by May of 2022, by December, what do we expect to be seeing? And these are completely contrived. So don't like sit there and be like, is that my school? Did my, like I made these up. But by December 2021, you might be looking to see this high quality literacy support in your ELA classrooms in your school, right? And you can think about, well, are we building the skills in kids to help make meaningful choices about what they're going to read and write? And so thinking about, okay, that's what our focus can be through December 2021. But the reality of COVID-19 and what's happening in our schools between now and May, this is likely what we're going to try to accomplish. We know with COVID, we can still model reading and writing every day. We can do that. That's something that can happen during COVID. But in order for that to be effective, the kids have to be showing up, whether they're remote or not. We need to focus on how do we get the kids showing up. And so in my pretend school, that's a big problem. The kids that are either remote synchronous or remote asynchronous, the attendance is very poor. So we can do the best things ever, but is that really changing anything if the kids aren't experiencing the best things ever? If it's just us talking to 3 or 4 of the kids that happen to be there. And so thinking about realistically in this year, what does that mean for my school? We still want high quality literacy instruction, but what else do we need to be working on to make sure our action plan is leading to success and growth? And then once we've completed that process with them, our next steps with them is taking them through this way to unpack all of these goals to say, well, that's the vision. This is the plan we want to do. But like we skipped a lot of boxes, right? What about skills, incentives, and resources? So thinking in reality about if my school has very poor attendance, is it because the kids are missing skills? Is it because I don't have the right resources in place? What is it because there's not an incentive? So we're talking about things like, what are you competing against, right? And really, what are you competing against? Sometimes it's sleep or friends or video games, right? This is especially if in my pretend school where it's about remote attendance. To think about how, if you're going to put things into place, they need to be tied tightly to what's actually happening in your school in order for you to see change. So that was the really high level review of what we've been working on with the principals, with your school leaders in the Rural Life sessions this spring. And so I'm gonna pause, and now it's your turn to think about what I just talked through, and respond either on the mic or in the chat with something you noticed or something that quick review made you wonder about.
So one of the things that we've been working on or been trying to implement at South Green Middle School is increasing vocabulary. And Candace and I have been working together on that. And one thing that we've been using, program that we've been using is called WordGen. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that or not.
Hey,
But
I'm in this Zoom meeting. I mean, I'm obviously.
One of the things that I've noticed a lot when you talk about resistance, that it's not just resistance from the students, but it's also resistance from your coworkers as well, because, speaking of COVID, everybody feels like there's so much on their plate at this time. And so trying to throw another thing in there, no matter how good the program is, just trying to get everybody on board with that. And I think the first step is to try to get all of your coworkers on board before you can ever get any of the students on board. And then after you get your coworkers on board, then you have to try to get the parents on board as well. And so I think that's an important place to start.
Yes, that is really great. And I see lots of heads nodding as they're thinking about resistance from colleagues. And that's very real this year. And thinking, it's real in any year, but this year, especially when there's a lot of people feeling overwhelmed, ourselves included, thinking about change at all is like, there's change. Nancy said earlier, from morning to afternoon every day. I don't need more change on top of my change. So thinking about that. Any other notices or wonders?
Don't leave me hanging out in the chat by myself, folks. I think I dropped something in the chat, but it's like crickets.
Yes. Thinking about, and I am curious about the intentionality of the grant planning, even just think about that May 2021 goal that, for my made up school, but your principal's writing one right now. And what do you think that's going to look like? Or do you already know what that looks like? Have you already had some of these conversations? All right. We're gonna move through the next little piece because it's gonna actually be a point where you can share with each other and think a little bit more about like your role in this process now that you're thinking the principals are doing this learning process and planning process. And what we're gonna talk about together now is, where do you fit in this chart, right? So your coach, the good news is your coach has been in all of the sessions. These sessions, they've been working with you in your school. They've also been in the school leader sessions. And so now we want to shift our thinking into, well, how can this actual mini team work together? And I'm going to get us started with just a little bit of thinking. As we go into this, as you think about this table, there's people in it, right? But not everybody in that table or on this mini team has the same control over the same things, has influence over the same things, or has the same concerns that they're looming out there. And so as we go into how can you become actively involved in this team, what's your role in this team, I just want to pause and remember that you have certain things that are in your purview of control, right? That's your circle of control. You can say to your students, there's no homework tonight, right? Like some of those things are absolutely yours to control. Other pieces, you're going to be able to influence. You might know somebody or somebody, you know how to bribe somebody, or right? You have influence over a lot of people. But thinking about, when you think about your role, it's important to know where you have influence and where things are in that sphere of concern. And so like in my example, some of the things that are going to address attendance are not things that are in your control or your influence. Some of the things are, but some of those things are in your sphere of concern, right? If the family has a child who's working and that's why they're not showing up, that might be a school level, a counselor level thing that they can address. But no matter how amazing you are as an educator or how connected you are to that student, you're not going to be able to solve that problem. So that goes in your sphere of concern. That's somebody else's to manage. You might have influence because you might make the connection to help that family get food or whatever they need. You might influence it that way, but it's not necessarily your problem to solve. So thinking about yourself in very realistic and pragmatic terms of what you can control and influence and what should just be, you know about it, but you can't address it yourself. And so how can you be part of this partnership? How can you all work together? And I'm just going to contribute a couple of quick ways. These are common ways that we see people contributing to this partnership, right? So you might have formal meetings already set up where the three of you get to meet. I know currently that's even harder than on a normal school schedule, but you might have formal meetings. You might just be passing each other in the hallway, whether they're virtual or real hallways. I know a lot of you have real hallways again. You might have your principal is just dropping in on a PLC and your coach happens to also be in your PLCs, right? And so how can you take advantage of that time? And you might just be saying like, I need to send an email to my principal and say, this is what I've been doing. I heard you're setting goals. Can you let me know how that's going or what I should be focused on between now and May? But those are some of the common ways that we see people interacting in this mini team. And what I'm going to do right now, we're going to drop a link into the chat. We're going to just start adding ideas to Padlets, to this Padlet. Let me grab it. I'm sorry. If you click on this Padlet link, and it's also on the website if you have that open. So there's the link. We're going to open the Padlet. And I just want you to take a few minutes to think about this question. How are you partnering with your coach and or principal? So it can be one, the other, or both to work towards your goals in rural life. And so to use the Padlet, you just need to click on the plus sign. It will let you add an amazing idea. And then that's it. That's all it takes to add to a Padlet. You're done. You'll see once you add a couple of ideas, and everybody should jump in and start adding ideas. Once you add an idea for how you're doing it in your school, how are you staying in communication? How are you up to date on the grant? How are you working with your coach or your leader? I'm going to give you a couple minutes after that to start reading each other's and commenting.
Teresa, just to ask a clarifying question, is this mostly about communication or are you thinking about other types of partnerships?
I think it's any way that you're partnering to work towards the goal of the grant.
Like how are you both working together to move the grant work forward? So it could be beyond just communication.
Yes. And once you've added a couple of ideas, I encourage you to take a couple minutes to react to some of your colleagues' posts. If it's something you can connect to or something you want clarification on. I see people talking about modeling, texting, which can be really useful, having formal meetings set up. So like at least once a month or once a week, depends on your school and what you're working on, to formally meet. And you can also just hit the little heart to like someone's idea or connect with it. Bringing your coach in as a guest in your Google Meet. I love it. It's awesome. Meeting to develop specific goals. grade level meetings.
Great strategies here. If you haven't already done so, make sure that you kind of read through others.
Yes, I love it. And so I'm seeing, like, I use my coach to help me brainstorm new ideas. That's awesome. Nancy and I use each other that way all the time. Just help me think through this. What I love about kind of seeing all of your ideas together in the community is that you see there's a lot of formal and informal choices you can make to continue moving the work forward. And it is about finding the right fit for your school and your schedule. And so we are going to, for time's sake, move forward in the session today. But I encourage you to continue to make sure you take some time to read through the Padlet if you didn't have time just now, and continue to comment back and forth and like each other's ideas as you go through. And don't be shy about reaching out to anybody else in the collaborative about, hey, I want to learn more about this. Wonderful. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Nancy.
Great. Great sharing. It's always good to kind of see what others are doing, but also to reflect on what we're doing ourselves. So as Candace is kind of maybe commenting on in the chat. So Teresa was talking about leading and working with in that rural life team, the coach and the principal and you. Now let's talk about you specifically leading within your school. So, you know, Teresa shared this chart and talked about all three and kind of your place. You're almost you're in the middle for a reason here. We put you in the middle because as the lead teacher, you are really kind of the pivotal person in this team, or we see you as the pivotal person in this team. And so let's take a few minutes to talk about this lead teacher role and specifically, especially the first bullet, serve as a lead learner and model key mindsets and actions of a leader. You know, I know a lot of you probably view yourself as leaders. Maybe some of you don't, but obviously your principal views you as a leader because they have nominated you for this role. And so, you know, as we think about each one of these things, again, we recognize that this year has been a little bit crazy, to say the least. And let's hope that the 2021-2022 school year is maybe back to a little bit more of what we had known in the past. But hopefully you see yourself in doing at least some of these things as a lead teacher. You know, you all just talked about how you're communicating with your coach and also with your principal, how you're working together. And maybe you've had an opportunity to even disseminate grant information. If you haven't, that's okay. Hopefully you can maybe begin to think about what the right timing of that is with your coach and your principal, and you can kind of be thinking about that. But like I said, let's talk a little bit more about this lead learner mindset. And so I want you just to quickly grab something that's blue, yellow, and red. Okay, just reach, like I grabbed these things. I grabbed blue, a coaster. I'm gonna use this as my yellow. It's really orange sticky notes. And I grabbed the bandana off my dog. Okay, the red bandana. She went and got groomed yesterday. If you don't have something easily, just grab 3 Post-it notes and write blue, yellow, red on them. That's okay. All right, so just kind of quickly grab something. All right, and while you're grabbing, you can listen. As we think about this idea of our comfort level in being that lead learner, and it's like I'm going to take us back to our psychology classes, Vygotsky's zones of proximal development. You might remember this from your grad classes or your college classes. When you think about how we best can grow ourselves, Vygotsky says that if we're in a red zone, this is there is no way under any circumstance that we would feel comfortable doing this. When somebody suggests one of these things, it might make us fearful or tense. We might get really anxious, or we might like really scurry away from something in our red zone. When we think about our yellow zone are things that maybe we feel a little bit uncomfortable with, but maybe with the right supports, we would still be able to do these things. Or these are things that maybe we're willing to take a little bit of a risk on, or we're feeling a little bit challenged, or maybe even excited. Maybe there's a little bit of an anticipation about that. Okay. And then the blue things are our comfort zone. So these are our things that it's good to have a comfort zone. It's good, but sometimes if we only stay in our comfort zone, we feel maybe a little bit bored, or it's definitely a safe place, which it's good to feel safe, but sometimes we get a little bit complacent, maybe if we only stay in our comfort zone. Okay. And so what Vygotsky says about these zones is that for us to really grow personally, or if we think about this with our students, we want them to be in that yellow zone, right? And so when we're going back to us as lead learners, we want to be thinking about ourselves in this yellow zone, things that are going to stretch us a little bit. This is an ideal place for our professional development. This is where we can really develop when, so I just want us to quickly kind of walk through this with our red, yellow, and blue. And I want you just to think about yourself in some of these situations. So you have so I've put you all on gallery view now, and you all might want to put each other on gallery view if you want to. There won't be anything on the slides for a minute. And if you're able, turn on your camera and hold up. So here's the first one, dancing at a wedding. Is that in your red zone, your yellow zone, or your blue zone? Oh, all right. I see some blues, but then I definitely see some reds. Maybe a few Misty's in that yellow zone. Amy's in that yellow zone. So is Brooke. All right. Okay. It's good to know yourselves and reflect on where you are. All right. What about leading a team building activity for a group of your peers at school? Leading that team building activity. How does that make you feel? Oh, a lot of you blue. All right, good. Some of you yellow, and that's okay. And there's no judgment. It's about knowing yourself and where you are with these. Great. All right. What about opening the next staff meeting by singing your favorite song? Where are you in this one? All right. Oh, I see some reds, but oh, a lot of you blue and some of you red. I want to hear, Catherine Edwards, I want to hear you sing next time. We're going to let you sing. I'll take a request. All right. What about teaching first grade? Oh, Stephanie says, no way. So does Amy. No way. You would. So did Mandy. Sticking with that. So does Brooke. Sticking with the middle school. All right. What about having a conversation about race with someone who is not your own race? Yeah, for a lot of you, I see a lot of yellows. Yeah, maybe a little bit more uncomfortable. Some of you very comfortable with this. All right. What about sharing your feelings with someone that you do not know well? Some of us were more of an open book. Others, maybe not so much. It looks like a lot of you all feel pretty comfortable with that. All right. And then what about interacting with a police officer? And Brandy, you had a big laugh on that one. I wonder, have you recently interacted with a Uh-oh. All
I
right.
live with one.
I know, right? Okay, so Becky, so then hopefully you feel good with that. So I took you through this activity to help you kind of reflect on, and not all of these had to do deal with school or deal with the grant, but these are things, knowing yourself and reflecting on where you are within these zones of comfort is important for us as we think about how we can grow ourselves. Okay. And so I want you to think about this now in terms of a lead learner and this lead learner mindset. So what does a lead learner mindset look like? Well, I'm going to give you an example. Teresa and I, about 3 years ago, maybe now it's been about 3.5 years ago, we were at a conference. We actually got to be face to face at a conference. It's hard to remember those days, but we went to a session on learning in the brain and the impact of trauma. And, we didn't know too much about, obviously, trauma is a word that, it kind of been a buzzword that had started to go around. And Teresa and I kind of consider ourselves big geeks when it comes to learning in the brain. And so we thought this will be a great session for us. Well, we walked away from that session realizing we have a lot to learn. They talked about ACEs, and we didn't really know a lot about ACEs. They talked a lot about the impact of learning, and it was just really kind of an exciting session for us. But also we realized it was something that was pretty far out of our comfort zone as far as we did not know a lot. And if you had asked us at that time, after leaving that 2-hour session, to go lead somebody in that work, it would have definitely been in our red zone. That was our, something that we were interested in, but we did not feel comfortable in sharing with other people. But what Teresa and I did with our lead, with this mindset of a learner, is we decided this is really important work. And this is something that I think we can help other teachers and leaders understand. And so we ordered several books. Teresa is is my Amazon book junkie. And so she went online and ordered several books for us. And I usually wait for her to read some things, and then she tells me what I need to read. So I let her kind of be that filter for me. But we ordered a lot of books. We started seeking out other sessions and other learning opportunities, not, beyond this conference, but other things that we could learn about. I started looking for articles that would help us. And we really spent time talking with each other about what we were learning and about what we were finding. And then we started leading sessions and working with teachers. And that helped us to grow. So at this point, we were in our stretch zone, and we used each other to stretch ourselves. But we also use the resources to help us put this into our stretch zone, to push ourselves to develop new content and to lead new sessions on this. And, 3.5 years later, I would say this is something that is now probably for sure in our probably our blue zone. We feel very comfortable having conversations, leading sessions on this, but it took us a little while. But with that mindset of kind of knowing where we were, recognizing where we were, and seeking out opportunities, we had that lead learner mindset. And so that's a quick example of from Teresa and I. So I want you to think about yourself within this rural life grant. And I want you to begin to think about, what are your comfort zones within the grant? And what are some areas that you want to stretch yourself in? And maybe this is a great conversation for you to have with your coach, to follow up after this and kind of begin to think about, you may not know where you want to grow or where you want to stretch. Maybe your coach can help you do that, or maybe you already have something identified that you want to stretch. So with this lead learner mindset in mind, we know the Rural Life Grant focuses on both literacy as well as personalized learning. And with this idea of, how can I stretch myself? Where am I most comfortable? And where do I want to push myself a little bit? Not too much so that I reach into that panic zone, but so that I can continue to grow myself. We're going to give you an opportunity to think about. So you're going to talk to your coach after this, but we want to give you an opportunity now to share some ideas with each other. and share some ideas for both when you feel like, okay, I need to learn more. Just like when Teresa and I went to that conference and we knew we needed to learn more, we said, okay, we brainstormed with each other and we said, okay, how do we need to, what do we need to do to learn some more about this topic? And then we also want you to think about what strategies do you have when you are already in your comfort zone with something and you're ready to share. Because if I go back to, remember this lead learner, right? We want you to hopefully be disseminating information and sharing within your school. So you might say to yourself, you know, I'm not really ready to share. It's not the right time, or I don't feel comfortable. Maybe I need to learn more. Or maybe you're ready. And what are some ways that I can share? Okay. Teresa, anything you want to add there?
No, I think I think they're ready.
All right. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to put you into breakout rooms for just a few minutes, and they're randomly assigned. And we just want you to quickly, when you go to those breakout rooms, just introduce yourself. Make sure everybody knows so your name and what your role is, what school you're at. And then we want you to brainstorm some strategies for the question assigned to your group. Okay. And let me share what I mean by that. So depending on your room number, you're going to be either assigned. So if you're in room 1, you're going to be discussing strategies that we have when I need to learn more. So you're going to be talking about, okay, what can I do when I know I need to learn more about personalized learning? What are some strategies that I can employ? If you're in room 3, you're going to be talking about what strategies can I use when I'm ready to share what I've learned or what I know with others in my school. So you might be, one strategy there might be to model a lesson for some other teachers. Okay, all right. So it's going to be totally random which of those 2 ideas you're going to be sharing. But so just brainstorm a little bit with the group, and then make sure that you save a little bit of time to generate your top 5. And you can we can do it Dave Letterman style and put them in order, or just it can be random order 1 through 5. All right. When you get into your room, make sure you have a timekeeper and a reporter, because each of the groups is going to share out their top 5. So you might right now want to take a picture of this slide, because when you go into breakout rooms, you can't see the this. And I think because of our time, we're probably going to have to combine this, and you're probably going to have about a total of 6 minutes. Okay, so you have to kind of talk quickly. Okay, questions about the protocol or what you're doing? So you're looking at the question assigned to your group and you're brainstorming. What are some ways that I can either learn more or ways that I can actually share what I know about the grant? All right.
I'm going to click open breakout rooms. The room is named with a number and which one you're going to do. So your room number will match your slide number, and that will also match I either need to learn more or what I do when I am ready to share.
All right.
Clicked it. You should be receiving an invite.
Enjoy the conversation.
You will not go into the rooms. I just want to make sure I have a couple of folks that didn't join. I don't know if they had to step away. So Robin and Brandy, are you all? I just want to make sure you're not stuck. And then Brandy Bridges, maybe had to step away. All right. Is everybody left? Supposed to be left? All righty. Perfect. Yes, Nance, I was trying to tell, I didn't know how to tell you we were running short on time. I was like, oh, we're running out of time. Bethany, you're gonna have to talk really fast.
I'll talk fast, and I just sent a text to the coaches that are doing the little mini commercial. It might just
Okay.
be like a one sentence blurb, and maybe if you got a quick moment of, feedback, little minute of feedback there, or example, excuse me, of feedback. But we'll be quick there on the back end of this.
Well,
Perfect. And I'm not-
that's sad because I good stuff.
I know you're ready.
Catherine, we'll let you stay on to see if they stay for the rest of your pitch.
You can sing a song too while you're
Just
at
so
it.
you know, it's 70 degrees and sunny for the first time in ages.
You can make a little
Listen.
jingle.
did I turn off? Was my camera off the whole time?
No, it just clicked off just now.
Oh, whoops. Okay, sorry. I was like, wait a minute.
Okay, how about a run-on sentence, Bethany?
There you go. That'll work. Nobody will
Mm.
judge. This whole group of literacy folks, no one will judge.
Just so you know, I've got the ultimate mute. I'm the debate moderator.
Teresa's got the cane.
Catherine's like, I'll smack you.
Oh, sorry, Catherine. Must be having sound trouble. Yeah.
Oh, we lost her.
No, we lost her somehow.
No surprise, no surprise.
I love the idea, Nancy and Teresa, for the coach and the lead teacher to think through those zones. Like, what are maybe some topics that you feel like you're ready to maybe take some steps toward sharing with others? What are some you want to further explore? I think that's a really cool thing that you could follow up on in our conversations with our lead teachers.
Good. Hopefully we set you up well for that.
Mhm.
Well, that's right. Catherine, you're going to sing for us now.
Oh, listen, you all, I am on YouTube and choir director in kind of a sizable church. You can hear me every Sunday.
Are you
Every-
serious?
Yeah, absolutely.
We learn. Oh
I
my
used to
gosh.
be, you all don't know this, but all up till the time I got in administration, I actually sang and played keyboard in dance bands.
Cool.
Oh, Nancy, I know
Yeah.
what the music when you're waiting to open Friday's session will be.
That's right. So yeah. Then when I got to be in administration, my mother said, Catherine, really, really? So,
Yes, music's important for brain
well, I have a degree in
processing.
music. That's what my degree was in.
That's awesome.
I didn't want to teach it. That and speeding down the highway.
Oh, Linda said she's okay with singing too. I missed that. All right, Linda, you and Catherine, you get a duet Friday morning.
There you go.
We're going to let our Yorkies howl.
Yeah.
All right, I gave them the 1 minute.
Yeah, you might need to remind them to put them on the slides. I see only one group
Hey, Brittany,
putting them on the slides.
can you hang on after this is over, like for 1 minute? Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so interesting. I thought when I need to learn more would be the easier one. But it looks like, well, maybe they're just talking and not putting them in the slide.
And I'm gonna just combine the share out so that each group isn't sharing out individually.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so hopefully you had some good conversation. I'm not going to have each group because of time share out individually, but in the chat, or if somebody wants to jump on the microphone, what are some strategies that you can use when you need to learn more about something within the Rural Life Grant, whether it's around personalized learning or literacy? What are some strategies that you might use? Anybody? Yeah, Amy, I mean, your coach is the perfect person. Hopefully you've been you've been working with them for several months now, and you should feel comfortable asking them questions. It's okay to ask questions and use them as a resource. And they may not know the answer, but that's their role to help find the answer to something. So yeah, your coach is a great person.
I'll be honest with you. I've recently discovered teacher tech tools on TikTok of all places. And I have found some phenomenal things that like, I thought I was pretty tech savvy. And then I see some of this and I'm like, like life changing. So I hate to say that TikTok, that kind of sounds very,
No, it's okay, but that's great, right? That's,
yeah.
you know,
I'm not on Facebook, so that's like my only social media, but I really just follow teacher tech tools, but they do have some very helpful things there.
great. Yeah. Social media. So whether it's TikTok or Twitter, Facebook, there are some great groups out there. Great place, great resource. Yeah. Teachers in other grade levels. Yeah. So going to them, right? And books online and resources, podcasts. All right. Great. Awesome. What about strategies when you're ready to share? So this one is maybe, especially amongst COVID and people's time being so thin or stretched thin, we're all being pulled in so many different directions. What are some ways that we can, when we're ready to share? I see some here on the screen. Anybody, and you can share in the chat. I love the newsletter in the bathroom, like the toilet talker, right? You could just put those on. That's a great strategy. I see modeling for other teachers in the classroom. Sharing resources through an online platform, right? Whether if you use Google Drive or Google Docs, or maybe use Canvas in your school or other things. Let's see, PLC meetings. So just sharing some of those things, especially the just-in-time things in PLCs and collaborations, hallway huddles. Yeah, so great strategies. Again, these are things that we want you to continue to talk with your coach about, both whether they're things that you want to learn more about or things when you're ready to share. That's part of your role as a lead learner, and within this lead learner mindset, we want you to try new strategies. Of course, to partner with your coach, what you're already doing, modeling for others, curating and sharing, finding ways, whether it's the toilet talker or sending an email or sharing through Google Drive, right? Maybe you're ready and feel comfortable to lead some professional learning. So there's so many ways that you can do it, and we'll continue to kind of help you think about that. All right.
All righty. So as lead learners, we want you now to think about what you would like to learn next. And so we'll talk about some next steps. All right, let's see. We're going to ask you to sign up for a second round of affinity groups. All right. And so you attended a couple sessions back to back around one of these 4 topics. And this time we're just going to ask you to choose a different topic, obviously, from the one you chose the first round. We had curriculum support, engagement, feedback, and technology. And remember, these topics came from a Jamboard that you all generated, ideas that you wanted to explore a little more deeply here this spring semester. So this will give you a chance to now pick a second topic, and we're going to have 4 of our coaches do a very quick affinity group commercial, just 1 sentence or so about each of these, just to give you that little blurb. And then, oh, I see a message about the link doesn't work. Oh, here it comes. All right. And so this will give you a chance to hear about these. And then we're going to have you choose your topic. All right. So let's do curriculum support. So Candace.
Thanks. For the curriculum support affinity group that Sarah and I facilitated, we use the Understanding by Design framework in order to support teachers in planning and student proficiency. So specifically, we worked on unpacking prompts and the questions leading up to that so that we could see the connection between student work and instructional practice. And one piece of feedback that we received was that the templates that we provided, especially the filled in examples, that was really helpful. But we also heard from participants that it would have been nice if we had had participants represent different curricula. So we would love to see you so we can have more variety in that group.
Thank you, Candace. And we appreciate you all giving such great feedback as you attended those sessions to help us improve. All right, Catherine, engagement.
Okay. Bethany and I did the engagement sessions, and we had a lot of fun. Part of the fun, we tried to keep everyone engaged. We also talked about how important it was for teachers to include engagement strategies in their planning. And that actually came up in a couple of our comments, that teachers that attended appreciated the fact that they hadn't really thought of, I need to plan how I'm going to engage my students. We looked at some models. We had some video clips of some really great engaged students, and we talked about, and it wasn't a perfect class, but we talked about what that teacher did to engage students. And this was virtually and hybrid, and it was, we felt we got a lot of good feedback on our engagement session. So thank you for the good feedback.
All right, speaking of feedback, what about the feedback session? Brandy.
Awesome. The great Linda Stewart and I are leading the feedback charge. And right now I feel like I'm on a late night infomercial. In this affinity group, we're going to be exploring a few strategies and tools to support that effective feedback in your classroom that's going to encourage that deeper learning and positive student outcomes. Based on our first meeting in the Lead Teacher Collaborative, we categorized your feedback into 2 feedback categories, which was the one being effective feedback and what that looks like in practice, and then the second session being streamlining that feedback. Some of your colleagues have shared that they enjoyed learning a more formal definition of feedback, collaborating with others to see how others and fellow colleagues are using feedback in their classroom, and also being able to see some authentic examples. So come join us.
And technology, Tracy.
Okay, so the technology group is exploring tools that are specifically related to student collaboration, whether you're hybrid or in person. So the thing that the teachers liked about it was getting actually time to speak with each other, because they learned what has been working in other people's classrooms, what hasn't been working in other people's classrooms, how do you mediate some of the issues that happen sometimes with technology in the classroom. So that's us, technology.
Woohoo! All right, love those commercials. So we've got the link working, it looks like. Appreciate some of you dropping additional shout outs in the chat. Love to see that. As you are choosing your topic, remember it's for 2 sessions. So that we're at the bottom of this graphic. So this topic, you'll attend a session on March 24th, and then the part 2 of this session on April 21st. And this will wrap up our semester of learning ahead of our summer learning, which I think maybe we have a slide that gives you some dates to put on your calendar. So June 14th and 15th, and then July 15th. And this will be a mix of you as lead teachers and you and your principal. There'll be time for that team to be together, you, your principal, your coach, and we'll be reflecting on this year and thinking about the upcoming year. We appreciate your patience this afternoon. We know we went a few minutes over, so please make sure you fill out that form, sign up for your affinity group. You'll receive an email from Brittany with links for how you'll join those affinity groups. So be on the lookout for that. All right, Nancy, Teresa, anything else from you?
No. Just thank you all so much for staying with us, as it's a beautiful day. We hope you get outside.
Enjoy your afternoon.
Yes, thanks all.
We'll hang around if you have any questions, but feel free to hop on off.